Last Slide Podcast, the reboot, episode 5? Episode 5.
Episode 5.
Yes,
We're back.
episode 5. We're back in action. Justin, Brooke, myself, Adam, I'm still here. Basically just, we're going to talk to these guys. You're like our awesome coaches here at Ativo. Between mobility and nutrition and everything else we got, we've assembled quite the team. So let's get rolling. Brooke, you were here first.
I've been here since.
We were here before Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're first.
Yeah. Okay.
You go first.
I've been here since last October. Started out coaching. Found you on LinkedIn, Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Something
Very
like
official
that.
job boards.
Yeah.
That's where you found the job.
So I guess just go into my whole life.
Yeah. Start from where you were born.
Okay.
How much did you weigh at birth? Just kidding.
Oh,
No, talk about from the fitness perspective, just sort of what got you rolling into everything and what brought you into coaching, now you're in school for nutrition and everything like that.
So I guess it all started back, I ran cross country and track in high school, and that just really got me going into the fitness world. Mm-hmm. And I knew from there that I wanted to go to school for some kind of exercise science, nutrition, something like that. And originally was I wanted to be a physical therapist and do all this. So ended up getting my bachelor's in health promotion, nutrition, and exercise science from Ohio State. And halfway through took a sports nutrition class, and I was like, boom,
Boom.
This is it. This is what I
Nice.
want. And did some exploring, found Merrimack, brought me out here, Massachusetts.
Lovely, the North Shore, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Ohio State to the North Shore. I was always
Big
jealous
change.
of your going to the giant football school in the middle of the country.
Oh my God, it was the best.
Jealous.
The best.
What were your events in track and field in high school?
I was a little bit all over the place. I went
Mhm.
to a super small school, so we didn't have a ton of athletes. And so I did the 800, 16, long jump, and high jump.
Nice.
So weird combo.
Okay.
You don't usually see distance runners as jumpers, but
Yeah, because the sprinters would normally be like the jumpers, right?
yeah, because you
Okay.
gotta get some speed to get into those jumps.
Yeah.
And I didn't really train sprints, so
Okay.
but it turned out doing all right.
Justin, did you do any sports?
Yeah, I did soccer primarily, pretty much every season
Okay.
growing up since I was 6.
Okay.
So it was pretty.
So everyone else
pretty
stopped
serious
and
about
you
it.
kept going with soccer?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, I did club,
Yeah.
winter, summer, all that. So
Nice.
yeah, that's kind of what got me into fitness as well.
Sweet.
Didn't know what I wanted to do exactly in college, so I just picked something,
Mhm.
and I just fell in love with the idea of it. So,
Nice.
and then I started doing boot camp when I graduated.
Mhm.
Worked a very short part-time job, but then kind of got into this field pretty early, 21
Okay.
was my first.
So you were a boot camp coach.
Yep, boot camp, and then I, became a personal trainer.
Mhm.
Taught a lot of Group X classes.
Yeah.
Got used to being in front of a lot of people.
Okay.
And then I got into massage a
Mhm.
couple years after that. In
Okay.
2014 is
Sure.
when I got my massage license.
Okay.
I was just seeing a lot of people with injuries and things like that, so I thought that would be a good approach.
Yep.
I've had plenty myself as well, as we've kind of talked about a little
Mhm.
bit. I had a major one. My major one was a herniated disc in high school. I had a foot injury that led to that herniated disc.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've been doing mobility.
Okay.
Too,
So it was like that. You had to fix yourself. That taught you, made you sort of fall in love with it, get into the material and learning more about it because you're working on yourself. And that
yeah,
translated
for
into-
sure. I've been to a lot of physical therapy, and then it just didn't seem like anything held.
Yeah.
So I was very curious about, all right, what's the real approach that's going to help me? So I found FRC is what really drew me in.
What's that stand
So
for?
functional range conditioning. So
Okay.
it's there's not one approach to doing things, but this kind of style really appealed to me because it just made the most sense. It was the most logical.
Okay.
And I find that it's pretty important to understand something to get the most out of it.
Mm.
I found a lot of other categories to be a little bit too, gimmicky in a sense.
Yeah.
They'd make all these promises, but I just never understood, okay, what's the real process here?
Yeah.
So FRC just, to me, it's a very, very simple concept. It's hard to execute.
So explain a little bit more about that, like in simple terms.
Yeah,
Of like, what does
so-
that look like when you're getting into it?
Yeah,
FRC?
so mobility is really just strength training for joints, right? It's controlling mobility is control over range of motion, right? So as opposed to flexibility, which is just a passive ability, right? So it's how much could you move, or someone else could move you without you having that good strength and control over it.
Nice.
So with the training, all it is really it's more attention. So most injuries, soft tissue injuries, happen at tendon and ligament level. So this is just an approach to really get very, very precise about training your joint, right? So
Got
that's
it.
in its end range, in people's end ranges, they're weakest, right? Where they
Yeah.
don't move often. One of the simple phrases I love the most is, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's, I mean, it helps
Yeah.
people understand, right?
It means more than one thing.
Yeah.
Like in this term, it's like, if you don't use your range of motion and your joints,
there's no
you
need
put 'em
for
work.
it. The body
Yeah.
is very conservative, so it's not really gonna.
And that's where when people get older and they're less active, oh, my joints are sore.
Correct. Yeah. Aging actually is not the primary reason that people get injured or they restrict their motion. It's lack of use, right? So
Yeah.
if you look at life, as a kid, you're playing out, like after you eat, you just go run outside oftentimes. Maybe
Yeah.
not nowadays. Maybe there's more video games and stuff. But
Yeah.
as we age, we just restrict. We have more responsibilities, less freedom to be outside and move. And so I think, and look at even we're sitting right now. So no matter how active people are, they're still in these positions where they're kind of forced to sit, whether it's in school, whether it's
Model.
Yeah, that's all good.
in school or
Good
on the
posture.
road or all that stuff. So
But I was actually just having a conversation like this in one of my nutrition coaching sessions the other day. He was asking me like, "Oh, I heard that once you reach 60 that your muscle declines, and that's just going to happen to me." And I was like, "Well, to an extent, yes, but you have to still focus on exercising and using that, and you can definitely slow that process. Like aging is something that'll naturally happen to all of us, but by staying active and eating right, you can like slow those negative changes."
absolutely,
Yeah,
you can mitigate it.
It's not a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. It's like, your metabolism drops, whole thing. Because it's like naturally, as you get older, you're not chasing around your kids as much. You're not like going hiking with your friends. You're not doing all these things just because it's a natural behavior to decline in movement and exercise and all that stuff. But if you're constantly holding the same pace, if you're constantly hitting the gym 4 days a week, working out, like you're not going to see that decline. Yeah, like certain things might get harder, like your recovery, or maybe you don't lift as much. You're maybe not building strength as much as you are maintaining it. But that it's a complete fallacy that it's just a foregone conclusion that it's gone.
Yeah.
Same as like I can speak to bone densities the same way. Yes, you want to start strength training to prevent losing bone density as you get older. But it's never too late to start.
Yeah,
That's
never
You
too
know,
late to
it's-
start. And people always they think that it is, but
Yeah.
I've seen stories of 60, 70
Yep.
plus year old people that are starting and are able to still build muscle.
Yeah.
Like just because you get to a certain age doesn't mean that you're a lost cause at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Seriously.
the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now is the
yeah,
best
absolutely.
time,
The sooner
right?
the better.
Yep.
Yeah. There's never going to be like the perfect time to start, and everyone's always waiting
Oh,
for that
God.
perfect time.
Don't get me started.
I know. As soon
Because
as I started to
it's-
say that, I was like,
It's just,
Adam's going to roll
I've
with
been
this.
triggered. I've been
Yeah.
seriously triggered. I'm about to set up a tent in the parking lot and protest how triggered I just been. But it's just like, you got to go. You got to do it because if you wait for that perfect time to start, like, oh, my schedule clears up in October, I'll start then. It's like, okay, well, when your schedule gets busy again in December, you're done?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Exactly.
it's always going to be hard. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be a reason not to do it. You just have to like jam it in there, like fitness wise or nutrition wise or mobility wise, like when you're most busy or when you're most overwhelmed. Because if you can do it then, you can do it anytime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can learn to do it under stress, because if you do it in a, let's say, environment of low stress, which is very temporary
Yeah.
for people, then you're just going to be stuck at, the whim of, I can only do things when it's completely low stress.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys, which that just reminded me of, was, there's a lot of things out there that, people should start doing this. You need to start eating this. You need to start working out. What have you guys seen from the people you've worked with that is what is one thing that people could stop doing, you know, and I'll jump off, and it's like, it's that sort of limiting beliefs of like, I can't do it because I'm so busy. Like if you get that out, if you just don't even think about that, don't even make that a thing, you'll be able to do it. You get over that hump.
Totally agree.
So what do you guys got in terms of something to stop doing?
I honestly thought on the same line of that. So that perfectionist mentality, that all or nothing, I think that's a pretty dangerous game to play because, you know, you're never really going to get these opportunities where you have a completely free schedule, whether it's work or kids or whatever obligations might be. So, you know, something I've worked on for a long time is growth mindset. And so that's the sense which is opposite of all or nothing thinking, where you can just do these micro attempts at getting better at things. So there's a book, Atomic Habits. I think that's gained a lot of popularity.
Clear. Yep. The fact that I know the author should tell you how
you know it.
You know good that book is.
Yep. He's really well spoken.
Yeah.
And so it's really about building these types of habits slowly and training yourself to do it under stress, which can be very difficult, I think, because people, you know, want that gratification of, okay, here's the I want to wait till things are perfect because if not, I'm not doing good enough for myself, right? So it's a story you tell yourself that, you know, if it's not this, then I fail, right?
It's a fairy tale.
So I think that's one big thing. So, you know, to stop thinking that you have to have perfect conditions, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
or I need to work out for 1 hour.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's the biggest one.
There's a lot of myths out there too. So it's like, I don't know where people are getting the ideas that, you know, I'm sure Brooke can speak on it nutritionally, like just, a whole category of things is bad, right? Yeah. You know, protein is bad for you or fat is bad. I mean, it's everything. Carbs are bad. People have opinions on all that. So I've come to realize that to me, a lot of nutritionally, it's just, I keep it simple.
Yeah.
I don't know as much as Brooke probably at this point, but the simplicity is just, if you can have whole foods and, you know, pay attention to what you're eating like that and not obsess over things. Yeah. Because I used to be pretty obsessive over a lot of foods.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. Like just focusing on keeping it simple. The simpler you make it in your head, the simpler that it plays out in real life. People get so caught up on, I need to cut out this food group or that food group or like never eat this. But really, the main thing that you got to focus on is just eating those whole foods and keeping it simple. And it makes your life a lot easier that way. And just prep a bunch of fruits and veggies for the week and snack on that. So
what does that look like? Because some people, I think we've talked about it before. You know, we've committed our lives to health and fitness, and you know, the three of us, we know quite a bit about each of these topics, like nutrition-wise. We're comfortable knowing more than most. But like when you say prep fruits and veggies, like literally, like what does that look like?
So, like, I like to do it as soon as I get home from the grocery store because that's when everything's already out. It's right there in front of my face. And I will just say I bought peppers, carrots, strawberries for that week. I just cut everything up and then put it in containers. And then it's just ready to go. Like, peppers, if I want them as a snack with a dip, they're there. Or if I want them, throw it in a stir fry, they're there.
Yeah.
And, like, once you get home from the store and you just have everything cut up and ready, it makes your life so much easier, and it just stops yourself from like, comes to the night, you're ready to cook dinner. Oh, but I have to spend 10 minutes cutting up produce now. But no, that's already done. Takes that out of the picture, and then you're more likely to add more of that into your meal.
Yeah, it takes a whole step out of the process, especially when like you're so tired in the evening, but you need like, oh, I need veggies for this meal that I have. It's like, well, if you have it just kind of ready to go, maybe all you got to do is throw it in the pan. To like saute it, and I'm talking just like tiny bit of oil and some seasoning and throw the peppers in the pan. Like it doesn't have to be anything overly complicated. You just got to cook them a little bit. Doesn't even have to be perfect. It's kind of hard to screw up, really. Maybe they're a little undercooked, maybe a little overcooked. They're still
like it's
edible.
Still it's there.
I like that idea with like doing it right away because you limit that negotiation. Because I think that's that's the thing people get themselves in trouble with is negotiating. And I find that's why I like to work out early in the day too. Because if I don't do it till later, it's negotiation, right? So that's another thing. Stop negotiating so much. I think it all seems like we have the same theme of, if you can do it now.
I'm wicked guilty of all that stuff. The negotiating, because the amount of times we've had thrown out a full uncut fruit or something, a whole cantaloupe that sat on the counter and like went bad because I didn't cut it right away, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's in the trash now.
Well, and that's
Like,
another.
sweet.
Yeah, that's another point I like to bring up to people too. Is it's like money saving. You're
Yeah.
throwing
True.
away less
True.
stuff. Like obviously, that's kind of where my head goes as a
Yeah.
grad student. Like I'm saving everywhere I can.
Yeah.
But I mean, who doesn't love to save a penny here and there? If you prep things, you're more likely to eat them, less likely to throw things away.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's terrible.
Yeah, gotta take that advice for sure.
Yeah.
Start. Don't put anything in the fridge until it's prepared
Yeah.
first.
Which brings
basically.
us like another point that I like to talk about is that, you know, yeah, the three of us were in this game, we're in the fitness industry and the health industry, but it's like we fuck up too.
Oh yeah, we're all
It's
Definitely.
human.
Oh, that's why we
don't
have the
enjoy-
solutions.
We don't enjoy
we have,
these things.
we have some solutions because we've screwed up so much.
Yeah.
And that you got to keep trying, and it's like you just
Yeah.
have to keep persisting. And like one of my light bulb moments in my like health journey, fitness journey, you know, working on myself is just that like you just got to keep trying at it.
Mhm.
You know, you just got to
Yeah.
keep trying at it.
Yep.
Keep trying to get back on the horse, working out, you know, or eating
Yeah.
healthy, and eventually, without even realizing it, you might do it.
Mhm.
Like you're because like you might think you're failing at all the times. Like, oh, I'm gonna try again. I gotta eat healthy this week. I gotta eat healthy this week. I gotta work out this week. You might accidentally do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, in a way, you might be like, you may have been shooting for 4 workouts a week, but you've averaged 2.9
Mhm.
over the last 6 months. Like better than 1.9.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I think the thing with a lot of people is they get so caught up on the day to day or even the week to week.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's about the big picture. What are we doing year to year?
yeah.
Like, that's where like I talk 80-20 rule like
Mhm.
all the time. That's my favorite thing.
Mhm.
And I even hate to do it on a day to day basis
Yeah.
sometimes because you can get like one day in the grand scheme of things doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But 1 year in the grand scheme of things is what's really going to make those differences. It's like you're going to have some ebbs and flows with it. You're going to have some weeks where you're not on track, but that doesn't mean that you can just like stop and quit. Like you haven't
Yeah.
failed just because you were off for 1 week.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's it. It kind of goes to the 1% rule too, like 1% better.
Yeah.
Not that it has to be every day, but you know, generally speaking, if you can get just incrementally better, it's a
anything.
game of totals. It's not necessarily like every day has to be perfect. So totally.
Yeah,
think
because
that's-
even when you're setting up, so it's like looking at it. Am I looking at this as how I did today, how I did this week, how I did this month, how I did this quarter, how I did this year?
Mhm.
Like the more you can zoom out and accept that that's the big picture, the more successful you're going to be, because you're not agonizing over every single day.
And I think one idea I've really come to try to practice in my life is minimum effective dose, right?
Yes.
So, you know, it's like if I don't, you know, didn't get great sleep and I literally feel like have 10% energy.
Mhm.
It's like, well, what can I do that's at least some investment into my health?
Yep.
I don't have to go crush it at the gym. Actually, that might be a bad idea because, you know, my lifts will suck. I might get injured more. So it is important to listen to our bodies.
Yeah.
And so what I do instead maybe is, all right, let me get my walk. Let me get a
Yeah.
30-minute walk. So it's having those backup plans in a sense, you know, to not to just say, oh, I'm not going to do anything today,
Yeah.
but to say, what is the, you know, if you wake up every day with different energy levels, because
Yep.
some days your 100% is going to feel different, right? Having the idea that you can practice a minimum effective dose, right? Like what's one thing I can invest my health in?
Yep. So it's not a complete like loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could bring up the other day, like I was bumming out about my foot, and like I'm like I'm not going to exercise right now because my foot's in a boot,
Yeah.
and like we're stressed out about X, Y, and Z. But the only thing I'm going to do today. I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to force myself to like try and be productive, like you know, at work on the computer.
Mhm.
I'm going to go out in the sun.
Yep.
Like I'm
Yeah.
going to sit and I'm going to literally like I dialed it down to like minimal effective dose. I'm going to just get some sunlight today.
That's perfect.
Because
Yeah.
I know
Vitamin
I
D.
will feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've dialed it down, like chasing the toddler around. Like, I just give me the sunlight.
You're charging your battery.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're charging the battery so tomorrow you can make
And
better
I was
choices.
good with that. I had to say to myself that like I am okay if I'm just getting some sunlight today.
Yep.
You know, and so that's
Absolutely.
tough stuff.
Yeah, you just got to like give yourself some grace in those periods because you're not going to be 100% every day.
Yeah.
And people can be so hard on themselves when they're having an off day,
Yep.
but we're all human. We all have bad days, even us that are
Yeah.
generally
Yeah.
healthy. Like
Yeah.
it's
And and that's where you have to know it's the long game. You have to be fully aware that it's the long game. It's not your fitness and health is not determined tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And that's gonna help you go forward, because if you have the mentality like, oh, I failed today, then you're more likely to want to quit, right? You just feel like you're abandoning yourself. Yeah, this all or nothing. Like, oh, I didn't work out, so now I'll just have a gallon of ice cream.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You know,
I mean,
like
I've
you
done
miss your
that
workout.
before.
Yeah, of course. And that's why we've all probably experienced that all or nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one thing I think that gets easier with time if you really just start to just invest in little snippets, like getting sun, going for a 5-minute walk.
Oh my God.
Getting sleep, you know, sure, read a book, whatever it is.
Everything.
Yeah. That makes me think something that I do with everyone in our first nutrition session is I have them tell me like what their why is. Like, why are they here right now? And if it's something along the lines of, oh, I want like a 6-pack, or oh, I want to lose X amount of pounds, I kind of have them take a step back and reevaluate. And I was like, what is really your why? Is it so that in 10 years you can still be on the ground playing with your grandkids? Or is it so you're able to stay healthy for this person? And just kind of like having them look at those more external things. And then I find that in those moments where it feels really hard that day, you just have to remind yourself, why do I want this? Why am I here? And you think about that future goal. You're doing it for your future self, your future kids. That really helps motivate people and get them going more than like, oh, I want a 6-pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's like even going like getting very deep. That's that instant gratification. Like you have to learn to put off instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so tempting because
it's so tempting.
Yeah, because
rewarding.
food is instant gratification.
Exactly.
Right? So that's the why it's so hard. That's the hardest part probably of
Yep.
the fitness and health world. And I think the 6-pack often represents something else. Like, okay, why do you want the 6-pack, right?
Yeah.
What does
Getting
that
real deep
represent
with
to
that,
you?
yeah.
What does it represent to you? Is it strength? Is it your confidence? So I think that, you know, I think digging in deeper is often pretty important for coaches to do for clients, but also for the clients to learn to do for themselves. Is to just like have perspective. Wait a minute. Did I get sold by social media that I should have the 6-pack, or do I want it for a certain reason? If it's for an event, I get that, right? Like you want to look good for certain things, but you know, I think
it's totally justifiable.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my sister's wedding. I want to look good in the my maid
I
of
got a
honor
wedding coming
dress.
up. Yep.
And it's like I need to lose, you know, take an arbitrary number, 25 pounds. And it's
Totally.
like, cool. Like that can be our carrot for, you know, this little push to get in shape. But overall, like deep down, why? Because like, what's after that? Like, why do you want to look good in that dress for the wedding? It's because there are pictures and it's memories, and it's like, but that's not the end all be all of like that.
Have the next plan, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because the
exactly.
6-pack is not a thing that most people can maintain.
No.
It's pretty temporary for almost anyone.
Yeah.
Even the people on social media, it's like, all right, they got a lot of lighting and a lot of editing and all that stuff. So it is about, you know, it's okay to have that short-term goal, I think.
Yeah.
But it's what happens after you achieve it. That's the other thing that happens so often. It's like, well, how do you know when you reach your goal?
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
And that's the thing with the 6-pack and stuff like that is your perception is constantly changing. Like your perception of yourself today is going to be different from your perception of yourself in a month. So if you're chasing something that's purely based off of your perception, you're never going to get there.
Yeah. It's I blame social media fully.
Oh yeah, it plays a
And I always
huge
tell
factor.
people, like when they talk about like, oh, the supermodels or whatever and how they look, I'm like, listen, if I had 1.9 million followers on Instagram that follow me for my 6-pack, I would have a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Like that was
get
it, but
paid
I
for it,
don't.
pretty much, yeah.
I have a toddler. And then that does not, 6-pack and toddlers don't go together, despite what the people on Instagram
And
do.
and the other question is, are you willing to give up the things that it requires to have the 6-pack, right?
Time with my son.
If someone values, hey, I don't care, I really am not interested in pizza and wine and all this other stuff, then okay, then you maybe can get that 6-pack. But
I don't
if
know a lot
someone
of
wants
people
it,
that aren't interested in
I
pizza
mean,
and
yeah,
wine.
I don't know how they can. I don't know how they can be either. But it's like you do. It takes sacrifices. So that's where the question of values comes in. It's like, do you actually value the 6-pack more than you value the balance of the rest of your life? Because having one often is pretty imbalanced in the ways you have to attain it.
And I think that's where the glorification of the dad bod might have come from. that whole phenomenon out there of dad bods, like, you know, specifically guys having a little bit extra, like they're not like super chiseled, they got a little bit extra. And it's like, okay, that shows me that guy is balanced. You know, like he goes to the gym some, but and he eats some, he lifts weights some, but it's at the same time, like he's enjoying his life.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, someone speaks to that from a different perspective, but
yeah,
that just made me think of it. That resonated.
I think, you know, I try less to wonder what is it that this person is doing and cares about and whatever. Like, I shouldn't care so much what someone else necessarily looks like. I want to look at myself and say, looks definitely are important in life to some degree. They also create some confidence, but if I can perform well, if I wake up and I have energy and I can perform and I feel good in my clothes, that's what matters. The six pack used to matter more when I was in my 20s. Now it's just less interesting to me to have one.
Oh, totally.
I just want to, you know, feel strong, look relatively good, and do the best I can do every day, I guess. You know?
We've become wise old men. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Wise old men.
I don't know. We have the whole perspective of life all figured out now. I would agree with you, though. I would agree, because even me hobbling around in my boot, I'm chomping at the bit to get back to be able to be like springy and running around like with my kid and everything.
Yeah,
those
totally enjoyments, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to go out and be like athletic again.
Yeah, 'cause,
you
like,
know,
when you're moving well and you're eating well, you
great.
feel so much better. Like, even with my cataract surgery, I had to take about a week off of exercise.
Yeah.
And I noticed the differences just within that week. Like, not being as active, not being able to lift. And, like, I noticed my energy levels were lower. I noticed that my mood was lower.
Yeah.
And that was just from taking 1 week off.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's what you start noticing the more you participate in fitness, is that the intrinsic stuff matters more after a while. Like the external stuff, you know, it's still going to be there, but I think, you know, you wake up more every day with like an understanding of that movement is kind of a gift to do. And I think injuries speak to that. When you can't use it, you want to use it. And so, you know, those days where you do kind of have that negotiation, if you can remember, oh crap, you know, I was injured last month, I barely could move. Maybe I should appreciate my ability to move today, even if it's not 100% the best workout I've ever had. Maybe I can do something. Right?
And that's where it's too the how good you feel when you're eating well and moving well. If we could like bottle that up and sell it to people, that would be the miracle drug. But you don't know what it feels like until you do it. So like everyone out there who's like, you know, always been, you know, unhealthy and never really exercised and never gotten to feel what it's like to be eating well, even if you're not like at the perfect weight, just if you're out there exercising and eating well, your mind is so much clearer. Even if you're still like working on it, you're earlier on in your journey, like that mental clarity that you can get, that like that mental health aspect that you don't need no pills for or anything, that you can just work out. Like if you could just let people sample that, like, hey, this is how good you could feel if you did X, Y, and Z.
And I think it goes to like doing what you say you're going to do often too. It's so that builds confidence. So, you know, if you build discipline in one category of life, it often will spill over. So I think that's why fitness is so appealing to people. And when they get that sense, you know, that feeling of, oh man, I'm making that progress, you know, they start to wonder, what else could I make progress in life outside of the health piece, right? Whether it's relationship or the job or something else. You start to feel like, whoa, I've proved to myself that I started here and now I'm here. And so I can do that in other categories, you know?
Yeah, it's like a waterfall effect. You start to improve in one category and it just falls into the rest of your life, like everything. And you want to start being better for yourself and you want to start being better for other people in every way possible.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
More energy and stuff. Yeah.
Seriously, we got deep here, guys.
We did. Sometimes we
went in on that one.
I'll get super deep in my nutrition coaching and like I'll get out of the session. I'm like, that felt like therapy. Like even this morning, like we got so deep and I was like, wow, I just spit that out. Like I'm just a nutrition coach. I didn't know if I was like a therapist.
I just overshared a little bit. Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. I think we kind of captured a lot of that. Before we go, from each of you, one or two things that, you know, Justin, Mobility World, Brooke, Nutrition World, what's sort of like, you know, a low-hanging fruit that people could either start or stop doing that you've seen that like sort of like opens things up for people? Like what's like one or two like simple fixes that most people can do that they can like see some initial progress, see initial results?
The first thing that came to my mind with that was sugar sweetened beverages. I think people drink a ton of soda, juice, and all that stuff, and you just cut that out, water, sparkling water, something, and that can make a big difference. Cut out a ton of added sugar and a ton of calories from your day. I think that is a super easy thing that a lot of people can do that might be kind of underrated to get a kickstart on your nutrition.
Yeah, I remember one of the nutrition-wise, me when I was like working out crazy in my mid-20s, I upped my protein like crazy. Like I was hitting my optimal level of protein like consistently.
Yeah.
Like for months. Like, and it just it became part of my life. And I noticeable changes.
Oh my God, yeah. That's another
major
great way
noticeable changes
is upping
right
your
at the bat.
protein. I'm a big protein advocate.
Oh,
Probably my
yeah.
favorite macronutrient, easy.
List your favorite macronutrients.
It's so satisfying, right? To add to that too, with the nutrition piece, I've thought about this a lot. I cook a lot of my food at home,
Yeah.
right? So if people just
That's
buy
a good
their groceries,
one.
they're selecting what they, they're limiting the temptations if they can go when they're not hungry to shop. And so that's a huge one that's helped me. If I'm out and about, I'm at the mercy of whatever's available. And it's like if you're, ravenous by the end of the day, you're just going to pick up whatever's nearby too. So,
and that's one thing, and I'll let you get your mobility nugget in too, but it's like the cooking at home stuff. People go, I don't know what to cook. That's another one. You got to practice.
Yeah,
you're going to suck at first.
I do ingredients. I don't do whole meals. I'm just like, all right, I want a meat and a vegetable and
you'll learn you can season so many things the same.
Yep,
so many things cooked the same way. Salt, salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, maybe some paprika, and you got like your bases covered for most things.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, keep it simple. I think what's a protein, what's a carb, what's a vegetable?
Done. Yep, that's a good question to ask
there's
for
a
a
meal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's playing around your protein too.
As far as mobility piece, I mean, it's definitely, I think it's just starting with understanding that injuries don't just go away by waiting.
Yeah.
Right. So to start, if there's an injury that happens, especially over time, it requires an active approach. So I think this, we often want solutions in this passive way, which is, there's a point to it. I think chiropractics, acupuncture, massage, what I do, it all helps kind of relieve some type of inflammation and things like that. But it also has to attach itself with some type of internal process that has to happen to build strength. So I think as far as people feeling less pain in their lives, stretching more, but stretching is often misunderstood as well. So I don't have to go into the entire theory and everything, but it's basically mobility training, right? So even after one session, which let's say for one joint even, you can do 4 or 5 minutes and feel incredibly better. I do like 10 to 15 minute warm up before my lift, and it just opens up so much space for me. So I guess that would be a simple one that most people could do to some degree, is just warm up for 10 minutes. Don't just get to the gym and start going crazy with all your weights right away.
And I immediately think of that. It's like, just to put it in a different perspective for people, it's just like, what happens when you just take a second, throw some WD-40 on a bolt that's stuck?
Yeah.
It loosens
Moves
up
better. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that's what that's
that
like.
works.
That 10 minutes of warm up and stretching and going through just a simple range of motion.
Yeah.
Or even before, or just in general, like after you've been sitting at your desk or something all day long.
Yep.
And you feel crummy. 5 minutes.
Yep. So there's a lot of nuance. I mean, sometimes stretching is contraindicated for things, but a lot of the times, like, honestly, even after one session with someone, I think they're going to have a lot more information to, this is how I more properly stretch. It's very, very specific to my needs. Like for me, it's a hip. Like if I have back pain, and I know, people, I know you were talking about hip pain and stuff.
Oh yeah.
We've got to look at that thing.
Right.
Yeah. So I think really just, there's a few stretches I do that when afterwards, my deadlift and my squat, I just feel freer. It's like, okay. So
that
release.
Just
spending a little bit of time on that, because it doesn't, I think that's the hard thing about mobility and stretching and all that stuff, is that it doesn't have the same instant gratification that like the dopamine of a lift would
Yeah.
get or a run would get.
Yeah.
And there's not the promise of, oh, this is a very different look physically,
Yeah.
right? Stretching doesn't make you, mobility is not going to be evident
Yeah.
to the person.
Yeah.
And I think that's another
hard
reason
sell.
that we don't get attention to it, because we're like, no, we want to just look great. And so we know that lifting does that in this global sense. But internally, if you, it's an internal process. So even as a coach, I have to really over communicate when it comes to a mobility session.
Mhm.
I could say, okay, do a squat. And it's like, you can keep it to a few words. When I'm doing mobility training, I'm like, okay, there's 20 different cues. I'm going to start experimenting with you. So you
Yeah.
really understand, where are you supposed to feel this exactly? And I think that's, the kind of the experience that happens. But long story short, I guess stretching, dedicating a little more time to the stuff that's not as attractive.
Yeah. That's where the discipline comes in.
Yeah.
It's a very disciplined.
Not to keep this going on for longer, because I know we're trying to like wrap up, but that made me think of a question for you, Justin. Like even myself with mobility training, like I want to do more of it, but I struggle knowing where to start a lot of the time. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. So do you have any advice on like where to begin when you want to start getting more into that stuff?
Yeah, I think getting coaching from someone who knows is one thing. It's hard to give general advice a lot of the times, but one thing that I do talk a lot about with clients who don't even train with me sometimes, maybe they come for a massage and they don't do mobility, is starting on something called CARS, controlled articular rotation. So it's a process of doing, it's like a self-assessment, and it's a routine that helps maintain your body as well. So it's rotational movements, exploring all your joint ranges from like neck to toes. You can even do toes. So I think if someone were to be interested in that, they can even YouTube, CARS routine. And that's, if they can start there, I think it's at least gives them a sense of, oh, this is what my body currently is, where it is, right?
It's like a check-in.
It's a
like
check-in.
status. It's a status check.
It's not, I think, it's, again, I want to preface it with saying that it does take some understanding. So I don't think the layman could necessarily be like, oh, okay, I totally get it after one go. Even for me as a professional for 10 plus years, I didn't learn it until I went to the training. I didn't understand nearly as much as I should have.
Yeah.
But, to some degree, it's like, all right, here's the information. If you can gain, the real understanding of it, go and use it, because I'm all about that.
And that's what you'll take people through, like when you do like assessments, consultations here.
Yeah,
People
that's
that
basically
time.
the first
Yep.
process is
You
the
take it
CARS.
through.
Let's look at, hey, what does your body do right now? If there's a limitation, like if your shoulder doesn't go all the way back in flexion, shoulder presses, we're going to have to work on that so that you don't necessarily continue with this like compensatory
And then
problem.
you get that sorted out, and all of a sudden your workouts are better.
And
you
you're
enjoy it
stronger.
more.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
It's a snowball effect.
If your deep tissues can really handle a lot of load, you can be incredibly strong.
Yeah.
I've seen some people in this world of FRC. It's crazy. If people want to like Instagram functional range conditioning, and they may find some people, but there's like guys lifting weights with their neck, like 200 pounds or something crazy. I don't know. It's
scary.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there. There's a guy, Beard the Best You Can Be, who gained a lot of popularity for these displays of
You say beard?
Beard the Best. He has this
Okay.
really
Good for
big beard.
him.
But he's a great.
Bravo.
He can do splits. He can do all these things, and he makes it fun and interesting too.
Nice.
So, anyways,
Beard. Oh, cool, sweet. Beard the best. Bravo. That's a great handle.
he's good. He's
locked
good. He's
that down.
FRC. He's FRC oriented, so I trust his stuff.
Well, everyone go follow Beard. All that
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice
nice
plug
plug
for-
there.
And
Yeah.
TiVo.fitness.
Exactly.
And all that stuff too.
Yeah.
We'll tag him. We'll put him in the comments of the post. Click down below. I don't even know how to do that, but that's what people on
We'll figure it
podcasts do.
Yeah.
Click the link below. Smash that subscribe button. So hopefully you're
All the
subscribed. We have
collaborative.
6 subscribers on Spotify.
6
Look at
whole
that.
I mean,
subscribers?
we got sponsors lining up. So
Beautiful.
now that we're back and
Wow.
rebooted, and we got you wonderful coaches, Athletic Greens is calling. I think they wanted to sponsor this.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
really?
a big deal.
It's pretty big
wow,
deal.
we're professional.
I know,
we're really
so-
good.
So fancy.
All right, we'll cut it there, and we'll be back for the next episode. Last Slide
good.
The
Podcast.
Last Slide Podcast.
Awesome.